All right, y'all, here we go with Pioneer Bay hole number 7. It's definitely one of the tougher ones, but I always love seeing this one. I enjoy this hole. Definitely some risk involved, but I'm always going for eagle here. And I'll show you a couple different lines. So this is hole number 7. I mean, some people, if you really just want a birdie, you can play safe and just throw it down this left side here with like a roll rive or even a sapphire just to keep it away from the water. It's kind of a tough second shot. I never go that way. I'm always going to go for the eagle here, so I like to slide left and go for that gap right there. So middle chevron right on this tree here, and I'll kind of adjust that depending on the wind, but usually just right where the leaves meet the trunk, and then just about a full anhyzer. Try to hit this gap here just like this, and that was about as perfect as I could have done my first shot here. So you can get the idea of what you're trying to do here to get the eagle. 81 feet, a little bit uphill. I'm going to add about 15 feet or so to this shot. And again, this is an eagle that a lot of people get quite often, but you can easily miss into the water and be struggling for your birdie. So again, I slide to the left, middle chevron right up there where the leaves meet the trunk of that tree. Not going to do quite as much anhyzer here because of the wind left to right. Definitely prefer a left to right wind than a right to left because it kind of keeps you away from the water a little bit. Barely missed the water there. Ideally, I'm trying to, even if I do go in the water, I want to at least be, 100 or less out. That way I can still get the birdie. But if you're going to miss, it's always better to miss to the right. But the biggest challenge is just making sure you hit the gap in the first place. So again, middle chevron right there, about a full anhyzer in this wind, and that should do it. Sometimes you get a really bad bounce off one of these rocks or the ground. You just get bad ground play, so you just can't predict it. 107, so I'm going to practice with this Faya here, see if I can. I'm still learning the wind, or not the wind, but the power. That's short. That's always a danger on this hole, is you think you're about to get an eagle and you hit that basket, end up in the water, and then you're stuck with a par. So this is a big wind, almost going to be a headwind. I'm going to throw the forehand. This is the other approach, so hit that gap right there with a forehand. Basically a straight pull down, maybe a little bit of hyzer in this wind. And this is a nice way to give yourself at least a look at eagle, but you don't assume as much risk because you're going away from the water. But as you can see, it's just harder to get close enough, or not close enough, but close, as close as you can on the backhand. This is a forehand shot. If I'm very far back, I like to go forehand just to make sure I keep it away from the water on a miss. But I rarely throw that forehand shot. I'm pretty much always going backhand here and going for the eagle. Try to hit that big gap there, hope for some good ground play. And if you get a big wind on this, you can get up there by the basket. I'm pretty sure it's aceable if you hit that rock just right, but it's not easy, and I've never done it, I don't think. Another forehand shot, we got it to go. So again, I like to, anytime I'm like farther than like maybe 90 feet, then I'll usually go forehand there just to make it a little safer. So this is the wind I like, a little bit of left to right. I don't have to put as much anhyzer, and I don't have to worry about it going too far left into the water. Although this might, it still went, see, you never know. That looked like a great shot, but it still ended up in the water. But again, I'm less than 100, so it's still usually pretty easy to save birdie even if you end up in the water, as long as you hit that gap kind of the direction you want to be going. All right, with these big headwinds, I like to lower my aim just a little bit like that, but still basically the same anhyzer. Makes it a little harder to hit this gap, and if you do, you're not going to get up quite as far. But again, I'm still going for it. This ended up pretty good, and at least it gives me a shot at making this eagle. 155, I'm going to go forehand. This is a tough shot with this wind and this distance. Got to put quite a bit on it from here. Oh, just short. Thought I had that for a sec. But you get the idea. That's my line. I think a lot of people use this line. See if I can get a big, that's a pretty good wind here. Trying to show you kind of how deep you can get on a good shot with a big, I like to raise my aim on a big tailwind just a little bit, and it just carries quite a bit more. And this is a perfect left to right tailwind, keeps you away from the water and takes it nice and deep. So you can see I got all the way up to the top here. Makes for an easy birdie. And you can see the potential there of getting an ace, but you have to kind of skip off that rock just right. So definitely never something I'm trying to do. An eagle on here is usually going to get you a stroke, but sometimes everybody on the card is going to get the eagle. It just depends. But with King of the Course coming up, this is definitely one I would recommend practicing. This is definitely the miss. If you're going to miss, I would miss to the right, because you can end up back in here and sometimes still have a chance of getting the eagle. And it's much better than going into the water and having to be forced to save your birdie. Again, I go forehand just to make sure. There's always some risk by hitting the basket. But there you go, guys. There's Pioneer Bay 7. We're going to move on to 8 and 9. And then we will be done with Pioneer Bay.